I'm Darrell Seasals, Chairman of Township Planning Commission. Call the meeting to order. First order of business is pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Present this evening is Ray Huskin, who is my commission writer, and Lisa Kagan, both with the Planning Commission. Next is Colin Seasals, zoning officer, Dave Sinopoli, assistant zoning officer, and Alicia Hare, assistant zoning officer. And I don't believe there's anybody online this evening. Those present in the room attending the meeting. With that said, first item of business is approval of the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. We've read those minutes. Are there any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. Second page under B about the school wheels. I think they said they were keep it. They said they weren't going to demolish or do any demo, but aren't they using those wheels for parking? And sounds as if they're keeping the field in that sense. Somebody.
It could be read, I guess, a couple ways, but maybe a slight clarification. I'm not sure what they were doing.
Yeah, I assume they were keeping the fields.
Yeah, right. They're gonna do away with them. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make that a little more clear.
Let's keep the full structure and only remove the pavement in front of the building. So
Right.
Sounds like they're not going to remove the fields,
But they are.
but they are. Thank you. Any other comments? For a motion to approve the minute with that notation. We have the motion. A second. And a motion by Jerry Huskin, second by Jason Dagan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And just as a note, there's 4 planning commission present tonight, Randy, Maverick, and all of them. Next item is old business, none. Item new business, plan 2023-5 Gish Furniture. 2217 and I have the you can identify yourself.
Sure. Good evening, Chris Benarchik with RGS Associates. I'm joined this evening by representatives of the applicant, Samuel Brothers Realty LP. And so while we're here tonight, I'd like to just start with a brief introduction, go into the brief background of the project and existing conditions, and then talk about the concept, a little bit about the stormwater management utilities, and then talk about where we're at, what brings us here this evening, and then next steps. So brief introduction again, the applicant is Samuel Brothers Realty LP. The purpose of the project is to redevelop 2 parcels owned by the applicant into commercial, retail, and hotel uses. The land development plan was submitted back in March of this year. And, you know, here seeking a recommendation plan approval to move forward to go to the Board of Supervisors. With a brief background on the project and the existing conditions, there are two parcels that are the subject of the application. One is about 6.5 acres, the other is about 0.2 acres. The respective addresses are 2217 and 2205 Lincoln Highway. Total being then 6.7 gross acreage in the C3 commercial zone along the north side of Old Philadelphia Pike, immediately west of the Sonic. The property is surrounded by developed areas, commercial uses, with the exception of to the north, as you can see on the plan, which is essentially an ag use across Mill Creek. There are 4 driveway connections that exist today for access to Lincoln Highway, and there are 4 primary structures existing on the parcel and associated paving. There is vegetation in the existing condition, obviously on maybe like the north half of the property, as it goes up to Mill Creek. Drainage on the property is primarily from south to north towards Mill Creek, and the site is served by both public sewer and public water through the Township Sewer Authority and the City of Lancaster. So the proposed plan, what we have up on the screen, the rendering on the board, is showing the definition of the existing structure that I referenced. So this would be again a redevelopment, as is very popular along the corridor, to try to replace old and tired parcels and buildings along that stretch of roadway. To do so, we would consolidate the 2 lots I mentioned into one. We're proposing, as the plan shows, a 20,532 square foot retail store that's positioned on the west side of the plan, and then a 12,150 square foot retail or multi-tenant building, is shown there up the southeast corner right off the roadway, as well as a 120 room hotel, which is the building shown in white towards the north. From a parking standpoint, the ordinance would require 242 parking spaces. That's exactly what the plan proposes to be compliant with that requirement. For the circulation, we are replacing the 4 driveways along the frontage. We know PennDOT's all about access maintenance. So this plan would actually remove those 4 access and consolidate that into a single primary access point off of Lincoln Highway. That would be a restricted movement. That would be a right in, left in, and then right out. We've worked with PennDOT through a scoping application. We've prepared a traffic impact study that's been submitted. We have received comments from PennDOT. We're looking at getting that application resubmitted to address those comments by the project team next week. From a pedestrian circulation standpoint, we are, as the township has been very, very proactive in looking at the pedestrian movement along Route 30 or Lincoln Highway. We are proposing with this plan, with the traffic improvements that are proposed, is removing that kind of bits and pieces of sidewalk that exists today with the 4 driveways. And we show on the plan a replacement of that with a 6-foot sidewalk to go across the entire property frontage that's being proposed. From a stormwater standpoint, I mentioned drainage essentially from south to north. We would maintain that drainage pattern. And we were proposing on the northern end of the site a single stormwater management facility shown here. That's a surface facility. And the drainage would essentially try to mimic that existing condition where we're just collecting and conveying that flow through surface and through subsurface pipes to that facility before it would discharge to Mill Creek. In our application, when it was submitted, we did include a copy to the Conservation District, DEP, for the NPDES application that would be required for the project. Sewer and water will continue with the Sewer Authority and with the City of Lancaster. We are showing connections out to the mains that exist on the north side of Old Philadelphia Pike. As far as kind of where we're at with status and next steps, we have received the May 19th EMA review from the township engineer. In that letter, it indicated that all reflected modifications are recommended to be granted. And one of the comments I wanted to at least discuss this evening was general comment number 1, and mentions of pedestrian connection to Dutch Wonderland. We do show again the sidewalk along the entire property frontage that would connect to that sidewalk that is shown across the Sonic property that does get people to the Dutch Wonderland parcel. So we do have that pedestrian link to that eastern parcel. We also have a review from the city of Lancaster for the water review, some minor detail adjustments they want on their review, as well as some limitations. And a review from the sewer authority engineer, the HRG, where our intent is to basically do a final plan submission that would address township comments, the city for water and the sewer, kind of nice package covering everything at one time. And I mentioned the conservation district as well. We did receive the administrative complete from them and had resubmitted that package back to the district at the beginning of the month. We also had the county review from our initial submission, and those comments were addressed in our resubmission that came back into the township in April. I believe we resubmitted. So with that, I just wanted to give a brief overview and background of the project. Again, we are seeking a recommendation on the plan and the associated modifications, which of course I'm happy to go through if you have any questions on those modifications.
I have a question.
Sure.
Could you consider having an access point like closer to the hotel to Dutch Wonderland? Like, you know, where the parking lot is? Because I feel like, I'm guessing a lot of people will be at this hotel are going to be going to Dutch Wonderland. So they have to come out to Lincoln Highway and then go with the sidewalk over like in front of where cars are going in and out on Sonic.
It did come up. It was something we talked about and discussed and trying to see how does that make sense or is it viable? The response we got back as we discussed that was if someone wanted to go from say the hotel to Dutch Wonderland, as we understand, has controlled access. I mean, you're coming into the front of the park. So providing an access back here would kind of bring them into their back door and from the standpoint of shuffling patrons to that back door.
This is employee parking still, or no? Is this where the employees park for Dutch Wonderland? Do you know this back parking lot here? That's where it was back in the day. I just don't. Yeah, do the employees still park in this parking lot? Do you know? Okay,
Yeah. Yes.
okay, all right.
So it's still signed and posted. It's employee parking. To the east of Sonic, and behind that, the entrance to it is just to the east of Sonic. Behind there, what is it, that AT&T store?
Yeah.
So this is the back of, you're saying this is
Yeah, this
where I'm talking, this is.
so the water park runs around here and this is where we used to park, right? So it's actually not an access point for them.
Oh, this was like the front of care.
That's like.
So is there, there's walkways from like someone staying at the hotel to get out here to the sidewalk on Lincoln Highway?
Well, they have to work their way through the parking lot, get onto the sidewalk either here or here to work their way down to.
The existing grading on the site drops from Lincoln Highway to Mill Creek. Where the hotel is, you're filling that area several feet.
Right.
So the change in elevation now is only a few feet between this property and Sonic's, the rear of Sonic, but now it's gonna be 5 feet, 10 feet.
There is some challenge. See on this graphic, we do have a retaining wall here. They're not long retaining walls, like 10 feet plus. But yeah, we had to contend with some of that grade change across here to kind of introduce that parking lot and the connection between the two buildings. But we were able to do some other regrading around this area. We had some retaining walls here. We were able to eliminate those. We do still have some retaining walls along here. So as is with many sites anymore, it's challenging not to retain walls, it seems.
So that lawn area, well, yeah, there's a fence the entire area between this property and Sonic. And the back portion of it is where they have their dumpsters. And then there's a small fenced area, maybe 2 sections, and has kind of storage right now. They have a couple of picnic tables in there, you know, that potentially is that grade now where there could be a walkway. But looking back at the plans for Sonic, there was, the townships are trying to get connections off the 30, and it would be fantastic if it could have a vehicular connection because of the traffic light at Sonic to give an easy ingress egress from the property. But there's no provision in the Sonic plan back when Sonic came in. You know, I think that preceded before we had the Lincoln Highway streetscape plan. So there have to be a lot of discussion to make something happen, to get access over and to get the hotel and the other businesses to use the traffic light as a safe ingress egress for a vehicular. But then in the grading appears to also be an issue on the back portion of this property where you would go into the employee parking. Even for nice to do it, but it looks like there's a lot of challenges that aren't gonna work. Yeah.
And we did try to set up in talking with staff very early on this idea of a potential connection in the future. So the way the parking lot is laid out, we kind of purposely did not put parking spaces here. We actually show on the plan to not have curbing here as well. So in the event that there's the ability to make a connection, if you have a cooperating neighbor, we're at least setting the stage for it. So.
Yeah. Well, and even for a pedestrian, it probably includes stairs as opposed to a handicapped accessible ramp. Would be a challenge. It'd be convenient for the hotel. But, yeah, the hotel, yeah. Patrons. Back to yours with the sidewalk, one of their request is to not put sidewalk in a lot of the parking area. They had sidewalk around the hotel and sidewalks around the perimeter, well, not around, but on the fronts of the retail spaces. But there aren't actually sidewalks in the parking lot, I don't think in any place.
Yeah, I think the modification with specifically the northern and western and even the perimeter edges around here, knowing that, kind of suggested that pedestrian move is south.
Well, Chris mentioned in the answer to your question, they'd actually have to walk through the parking lanes or the parking lot to get to the front of the property, to get to the sidewalk on Route 30, to get to Dutch Wonderland.
Mhm.
The retail areas, what this is you're projecting to attract, or have you attracted? Do you have any commitments for the retail space?
We have no commitments at this time.
You have the target.
So it's a similar. Prior to getting.
Let's go to another question. So you were talking about, being open to the idea of, having access with neighboring properties. Are you granting any access easements or anything across your property for that?
I don't think at this time we showed on the plan.
Okay.
No, we don't show anything at this point in time.
I guess the problem is if, Sonic comes a couple years later and says they want to, they want access, or they're going to redevelop and they want, access, you guys could just say, no. Hey, there's.
I would say a few words about that. We have been extremely aggressive at trying to buy the Sonic lot and have been, it's tied up in an estate right now. And for 2 years, we've been not able to move at all. But obviously, we are very interested in obtaining that property as it would increase value for our property as well. If that ever becomes available, we'd be very interested in obtaining that and getting that access.
I guess the only concern with that is if you end up selling and before that happens and there's
We're
no
not selling
guarantee.
this, we're developing this for our
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna be the
Oh, which one are you gonna be?
Vicious Furnitures.
Okay, but I mean, is that that's one of the buildings?
That's
That's
the biggest building.
the one on the
Whole reason
west side.
for us to build a bigger retail store there. 2 lots up from our current retail store.
Yeah, is that a residence between your current building and this property?
Well, it's the SPCA and there's also a residence in the middle of the SPCA.
Yeah, in the front of that.
We've been aggressive to get the SPCA, and we actually had a deal with the SPCA, but then we found out that there's a residence in the middle of the SPCA property, and they were not willing to do anything that would favor or benefit the SPCA. So we'd be interested in both of those properties, obviously.
And I looked on our official, we have a trail system. The trail here is on the north side of Mill Creek. And it'd be fantastic if there was a connection to the future trail, which would connect into the township park, et cetera, which would be a great amenity for, the hotel and exercise, et cetera. Enough said, but that would mean a bridge of some sort. So the Dave Miller letter, are there any comments from the general public? That's present in regards to this plan. So the Dave Miller letter of May 19th. There were 7 operations year through the recommendation. The joint comment, except in connecting. And then something that has a vehicular connection as well, which I think we can talk about the challenges of those beyond. So any 2 comments, and you have an issue with those?
Yeah, the lighting, we can get that slightly, and we'll work with the positioning of the fixture to make sure that's. Signs, actually working with the applicant. Mock-ups on what the sign would look like out there, and they recognize obviously that the sign would need to comply with the zoning ordinance.
I think there was a comment about the one sign for the beverage that's not on your property.
I recall those email exchanges that they've been in touch with the neighboring property and have gained permission to remove that sign when they do their construction. It is positioned on the neighbor's properties.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna have the equipment there, so it'd be an ideal time to. And then give you more visibility and a cleaner Route 30. And then there were 9 comments under subdivision and many developments. And 8 of those you had previously addressed in your letter. There was some new ones in regards to overlapping capital.
That was a CAD error on our part, which is, yeah.
Yeah. And there were a couple of things where. Verifications on the thing, and those will be provided. In regards to any of all items from previous plans, requirements are included with this. was number 3 under subdivision land development. And then we're looking for a verification. The
Yeah.
township didn't have, whether you've done it or not, it's needed, the township needs it now.
Yep, so we've been like doing that more and more, listing out the prior for the plans on the parcel, so.
This letter, you only have 2 stormwater management. So thank you. Thank you for cleaning those up.
Sure.
Before tonight.
Colin, quick question. Does the township have any concerns about not having like access easements in place for neighboring properties?
Yeah, we do. And in fact, this evening, I forwarded a letter from our traffic engineer, Jay States, to TPD that had a review of the TIA. So I can read through those. It's just 3 rule comments and much of what you mentioned, Sarah. The first was it's recommended that a pedestrian path be established between the proposed hotel and the retail uses. So something internal, maybe from the hotel up to the retail uses. Was the first comment. The second was easements are recommended for the southwest redevelopment site for the future potential signalization of the US Route 30 Millstream Road Humane League intersection. Signal pole would likely be located in this area. And then the third is pedestrian access to the property to the east, Dutch Wonderland, and vehicular easements for access to neighboring properties, Sonic and Humane League shall be provided. And I will forward you this letter, Chris. So yeah, we would like to see some type of, if possible, pedestrian vehicular. I know it's tight in the front, so it's challenging in the back with the grade, so it's something to take a look at.
You're referring to the area we are.
Yeah, and I do understand that Dutch has limited access, and in fact, that area that the employees currently park, we just received the land development plan for that area today. So that's gonna be no longer parking. So that that's gonna limit what we can get anyway, so. Yeah, just something to take a look at, and
Yeah, I don't think we're opposed to establishing. Something to talk about.
yeah, whether or not something is actually feasible, it can work, as long as we can get an easement or at least review it, discuss it.
So in that area, Chris, you said there is a retaining wall at the edge of the parking.
That is here, right around this corner and up around here. So this area is open.
But grade wise between that area that you just mentioned and area to the east there, what's the grade change on?
It's got some good falls in it. It's one reason why we didn't explore that too much. I think it would clearly take that other property owner coming to the table because it'll require some earthwork on their parcel to make that work.
And it had I glanced at a small grading plan, and there were a lot of lines there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they were 1 foot or 5 foot but it looked like a considerable grade change.
I'll just quickly say 12 to 14 feet. So it's a good.
I was guessing, it was going to be around 10 feet, but that's.
So if you're able to, like, we don't control it today, but working together, maybe some grading could occur on that adjoining property to make something feasible.
Maybe a couple feet difference, but as you come further front of the property, it grades a little Sonic stuff. So the actual parking area for Sonic is a little higher. Parking to the east, but in the back, the grade is similar. The elevation of it, so that may be a challenge. Change now in that distance to put a viable path or even driveway between those two. Yeah, grade wise, if that needs to be as high in the back or?
But Orange County is lower. So if we go higher, that just hurts us back here. We end up having more.
You see the face of the wall from the parking lot or the face of the wall would be towards Mill Creek,
Correct.
exposed portion. Okay. So after your new grades, your lot's gonna be higher than the,
I stand corrected. I'm sorry. We're higher. We're around 330 at the property line. It's about 350. I was thinking of we can't go higher with this here because and we're back to the ball.
well, that's what I'm saying, yeah. If it'd be lower, it'd be better, yeah.
I guess it depends too, like what Dutch Wonderland is planning to do there. It might not even make sense for a pedestrian
Well, yeah,
walkway, so.
the same with the grades as proposed now would be, I don't want to say nothing's impossible, but it'd be improbable. That having just come in today, the township just getting a plan today, we don't know what they're, looking at there, if it's even feasible on what they're proposing. That portion. Well, I'm not sure who's going to make the motion, but they're.
Or to include your letter in the motion? Letter you just referenced or not?
No.
So with that, it could include that. It's our understanding that plans come in and that prior to a condition might be, investigating the possibility of doing something, knowing that there's a plan that just arrived for the property to the east. To slow you down, but we're looking to not create issues for later.
We could put a condition that they need to discuss those options that are in the or those recommendations that are in the traffic.
TIA assessment review letter,
Yeah.
Any other comments? Look for a question.
Make a motion. Number 2023-5, uses furniture. Approved. Approval, there's EMA dated May 19th, and the county's letter dated April 27th. And also that reference to the letter that Colin mentioned that there'd be collaboration and potential actions to make either access or pedestrian access.
Any? What, a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. I have maybe just one as a clarification in regards to the letter you referenced. There was also comments in there about internal sidewalks to connect the retail and the hotel and Sonic. And under waivers for sidewalks, that's within the parking compounds. So asking if you want to conclude that information from the letter as maybe a conditional approval of the parking compound sidewalks.
Is that in the DMA letter?
It's in the BMA letter, but it's a blanket approval, but not require any.
Yeah, the TIA letter, which is dated June 13th, 2023, does reference an internal pedestrian path be established between the hotel and the retail uses, so.
And this waiver is for the Dave Miller letter preclude needing that as a item. They're kind of in conflict. So clarification, I believe, because the sidewalk waiver as recommended is not in concert with the letter we had tonight. So they're in conflict, so I don't want to have a conflicting motion. Either it's one or the other.
Yeah, I would say the DMA,
Under waiver, sidewalks number 3.
with the exception of number 3.
We still need a modification, because I think the way that works is that you have to have a sidewalk all the way around the corner of the parking compound. So the way the DMA letter words it as, requesting a modification of the requirement and is proposing to have portions of the parking compound without sidewalk. So, I mean, I'm comfortable with you guys, or we understand that you're making a reference to I guess, new TIA review, and that's incorporated into the rule.
And that letter suggests a conversation about potential collaboration.
Maybe not, maybe a.
I don't see how-
But something to direct, yeah. Mhm.
It's just on my part of clarification. There is a little distinction between the two.
Sure.
So not have a conflict. That discussion, final decision on internal sidewalks. Yeah. So the motion by Jerry, the second by Jason.
Yeah.
Or Sarah, excuse me. So, Jerry, you're in favor, we'll vote. And for Darrell, it's an aye. Sarah
Aye.
and Jason. Aye. Unanimous. You. Here. Fire. The item on the agenda is a briefing item for plan 2023-10 Aspen Home Improvement.
Yes, so this is just a lot consolidation. It's 3 separate distinct lots right now. They're gonna combine them into one lot for Aspen Home Improvement. It's a contracting business, so. You'll see that at a later date.
Item is other business, Penmark Management Company, regional commercial C3 zoning district information. Identifying yourself, the meeting is being recorded, so.
Robert Sicklesteel from Penmark. Dean Cafiero from Penmark. So Justin Bartholomew from Penmark. Thank you for all your time. Just wanted to give you a brief history. Penmark is the original developer of the East Town Mall. It was 42 years ago, in 1980 it was built. We moved here from New York. My father built the mall when I moved here when I was 4. And he had met a developer partner in his business. So working for WT Grant. My father's still alive, and basically taking over the business. When I was a kid, I used to come here and play video games in the game room. The time. So we've owned the entire time. As you know, used to have 40 stores in the middle. It was Kmart on one side, White Supermarkets on the other side. As the years had and retail has changed,
we've modified the mall, as you've seen. We've gotten rid of Kmart, we put Gabe's. I think we had the off-track wagering facility. Then recently, when AC Moore left and the off-track wagering facility moved to Morgantown, we saw an opportunity to combine all the spaces, and that's what you're seeing right now. Hobby Lobby is moving in. That was very challenging. There's about 6 different levels of the mall that we had to make it all one level for Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, because that used to be like a ramp when we used to walk up through there. I used to be there like. Grandmother used to take me there like every weekend.
Yeah. It was there.
Good times.
Yeah, so, PennDOT took over the center of the driver's license facility. They do the test driving up the back. We feel we've always been a good township citizen. We build our properties, we maintain them. We don't sell them, we own them for the long haul. So as this happened, what happens is the back of the mall, because we used to go all the way deep, be tenants, and now there's a back section of the mall that is not used anymore. There's about 40,000 feet in one space and about 10,000 square feet in another space. And we're always looking for options of what to do, how to recapture the value. What we came up with is modern self-storage, not what you used to see across the street that I think has been torn down. I think that's going to be a Royal Farms or a Sheets, I'm not sure which, right across the street from our center. We wanted to have access only in the back. We wanted to have multi-level in one section, could be a total of 80 or 90,000 square feet with access only from the back. I'm going to turn it over to Justin, who can explain the look and the feel of what we're trying to do. When he's stressing, it's not the typical self-storage that you've seen in the past where you have like up into. This is a modern contained facility that Justin.
Okay, all right, can we start with a couple of the exhibits here? Can you go to, we have the site plan. It's fine. So, that image you see there is actually at another mall that we own and manage in Pottstown, PA. Malls are, for lack of better words, dying, right? This is an 800,000 square foot facility, has 7 anchors. The interior tenants ultimately had died out. So what we did is we looked at an opportunity to repurpose the interior and kind of create some value for not only us as a developer, but the township as well. What we came up with is doing 80 to 100,000 square foot self-storage facility. We're not in the self-storage business yet, so we don't know how to manage one of these facilities, but there's people that do. So what we did is we talked to a couple of the different organizations and ultimately decided with CubeSmart. They're local out of Malvern, strong force of operation, and a strong network. They know what they're doing, just like we know how to manage. So this would be 2 people would be there on a daily basis, staff between hours of 9 and 7. The goal is to have access 24 hours a day. So people that work different shifts could get in and do what they need to do without having to have somebody there, just space. That image is showing what the facade is ultimately going to look like. That is a rendering that was done and superimposed. As you can see, the facade actually looked like the rest of the building. So we'd want to duplicate something similar to the back of the center. Ultimately, the back of the center looks like pretty aesthetically pleasing, right? So if people are going to use it for a self-storage facility, we want them to know it's there. We want them to drive by, bring issues, just get in, get out, and you can get on with that. There should be another image, self-storage, Coventry self-storage facade before. And that kind of shows you what it looks like now.
How much parking do you pick up back there? I'm sorry, real quick. Is there enough parking? Like, are you planning on just having parking spots for everybody to park and
So
walk in?
ultimately, facility, based off my understanding from talking with them and planning this facility in Pottstown, we're just starting this one because ultimately I'm going to get the car too far past the horse, right?
Yeah.
But it takes about 10 to 12 minutes.
We're not looking to do any truck. Anything outside.
Sorry, I apologize for interrupting.
The other thing is that we have a tremendous amount of homeless people that we could fight to get off. So more traffic, more people we have, easier it is to not have people. There's still a woman.
Yeah.
Other self-storage.
Yeah, well, Were you? All right, if not, can you pull the aerial? So if you actually go to that back corner where it kind of V's out, there's actually parking spots already back there. They're currently used by PennDOT there and some of the other neighboring tenants. And there's about, yeah, so it's. If you go from the back of the side here, they're all some like down and around. So there shouldn't be a need to add any additional parking. That's fine.
That's remaining there, they're not.
We're in the process of that's gonna be expanding. I believe.
So you won't be able to use any of them. You have to have it.
No, that's not part of this lease for part. That's our employee parking. We can have a parking building. Decide, we'll see how it shakes out. That's not a lease requirement. Spaces.
But we make a requirement for CubeSmart, they believe is 10 to 12 spots, and I think back there, maybe even more. Goes along the back there.
It goes all the way to the back. Of the
Yeah.
The other thing about looking for trying, so is a nice. So not only the facade, that could be nicer, but now dumpsters and everything, you know, somebody comes to store their things in self-storage. You want to feel secure, you want to feel that stuff is going to be safe. And we have to give them that assurance, to assure that. Yeah. Sorry, one more thing. So the thing is going to have cameras as well. So someone will be able to go there. So the security level will be able to pick it up.
Going through with the other locations. So access is going to be key card access. Yeah. Key access. And CubeSmart actually use a very specific system. So it's not like I can somebody else is accessing my.
So do you just rent their system? Is that what happens? Like you're actually using their software to run your storage or other?
What happens is we handle the entire construction, we fit it out where the activity behind the self-storage facility.
Right.
Once everything's up and built and running, CubeSmart comes in and manages it. They hire the trainers for us, the management for us, but we put out one.
And we
The software, they run.
Right, okay.
So the key card would be for the primary access door to get into the facility.
Correct.
Not necessarily your unit.
No, so the units will have individual locks.
And there's cameras inside too, each access hallway will have its own camera.
You're focusing on individual clients, not.
Correct. So
It's usually 10 by 10, 10 by 20, it's nothing bigger than
if you go to 23-03-02. That would be the 3,900 square foot space in between Burlington and PennDOT. That's currently sitting on two different elevations. Our goal is also to discuss the possibility of a second level. However, that will show you kind of the layout. Really, as small as 5 by 5, the 10 by 30. That layout mix was done based off a study that we had a third-party organization run, as well as CubeSmart ran their own feasibility study. And this was a unit mix that they had come up with. So you'd have no large organizations. This would be pretty much your everyday consumer.
no tractor trailers, no trucks. no-
Basically, anything you carry through that front door, you can get to your storage unit, that's it, right?
They're sliding doors, but yes.
You have to go in through the front of the facility to get
Right,
it.
so some controlled access points, stuff of this size, they would require two different access points. The goal we have self-storage is to limit your push distance, not only for the customer, but for the operator as well. It just makes better economic sense. Why this makes sense for us as well is because mechanicals are already in place, so we can do climate control, and you don't have to have the units that are next door that you drive up to that look like sheds. So it gives us the ability to repurpose the building as it stands and not have to spend a whole lot of capital on the interior.
You will have access from the front of the building.
There's not enough space out front. That would probably be an emergency exit point.
Emergency exit only, we do not want to have customer access through the front.
So I don't know if anybody's actually been there recently. It kind of comes to a pinpoint at the front. just wide enough for a hallway.
It's just, the only thought, it's been a while, but at one time I had a storage unit. And once you stored stuff there, you forget about it. And you want to go check what's there or grab a folder, a box, an item. And that might be, especially if you're in a unit on the way towards the front of the building, if you can access it there, go in and check something, look at it, maybe carry a folder out, box out, rather than saying, just
Push this is key.
push this, it's a good call.
So if you just take this back in here, it's like the odd shape, you could have multiple entry points on each side of it. You got one on this side, one here, one here. So that would limit your actual foot traffic between different spots to try to ease that accessibility issue.
We just, because of our retailers, a lot of them are opposed to self-storage use being fronted with them next to their,
Historically, it wasn't considered retail in nature, but now if you look around,
somehow off-track betting, self-storage is not.
there'll be a single point to get in, to your doors, front. Well, you know.
the other thing I want to touch on is based on you had submitted according to the draft, we had stipulated certain size. We were hoping to approach it as to doing a text change amendment to allow this. So we had a draft ordinance drafted, our attorney submitted it, and then we were going back and forth about the size limits. And we're just trying to make sure we maximize our size back there. I think the original recommendation was 30,000 square feet. That kind of really doesn't work because our one section alone is 30,000. So just to limit that to 30,000 square feet doesn't make it economically feasible. So we're trying to make sure we get the bang for the buck and able to operate the business. Realistically, looking at it from a warehouse slash separate from that standpoint, we're going to need about 100,000 square feet. Is what we are looking for is allowable square footage. Both the spaces that we were looking at are on the property and will never be retail in nature. It just isn't practical. One of them is actually a mezzanine space that's 2 heights in the back of the Ollie's storefront. There's Ollie's left. Doesn't seem like it's happening. It's renewed. And we're
Looking for this just those seconds. It's changed since then. We'll let it to. We moved to right here and to right here. This is probably going to be expansion for PennDOT, working through the issues. So we're looking to do potentially 2 stories here and just keep that the way it is. I think it would be 89,000 square feet.
roughly, yeah. So if we did 2 stories in the corner of the property, it's roughly 75,000, and then the mezzanine space is roughly.
How many units do you think you can, or how many units do you project in like an
Just a second.
Like looking at this self-storage, generally busier with homes. And once it's open, like Carl was saying, there's not much traffic.
Right.
Many of them not much traffic when you first open, but that's when you're the busiest. So like, once you run into the storage spaces, people don't come very often.
So you forget about it.
It's kind of a day. So there'll be some people coming in, hopefully bring some.
Space 750.
So if you went next to them, if you went 2 stories in the one section.
Well, with the chart you have roughly surface floor, not second story, but you have 315, 320, 30 square feet.
On the same floor, yes.
So you're saying you feel you need 100,000, that would be a third of it. Now, part of this would be 2-story. So you have more than 337, and when you put the second floor on,
We pick up the 700 though.
So I would ballpark 750 if you're doing the second floor between Suite D, which is a mezzanine space that has 2 floors already. And then if you doubled the middle, which is shown on there, which calls for 337 units.
your plan is more than what you're showing now, potentially be storage. facility.
Well, in the designated areas, but on multiple floors.
You can't make, self-storage work on 2,000 feet. Unless you're in some high-end area.
I think the difficulty is, it seems like a lot of square footage, and if this is a text amendment, it's not just applying to your specific property, it applies to other properties that also fit the criteria that you set out in your text amendment. So I feel like the township probably doesn't want, this use all over the commercial area of the township. I mean, that's just my perspective.
Yeah, no, but thank you, Sarah. I mean, from this side of the table, yeah, that text amendment has a bigger impact than just this parcel, this site. There are others, potentially that could fit with, the Rockvale and Tanger, possibly even Target, all along the 30 that potentially could entertain a similar facility.
I think the text has changed that we did, we submitted, I thought most of it was approved except for, or it's not approved. Most of it was said that it would be considered except for the science criteria. It had to do with, I think it was in the rear of the center, had to be fronting Route 30. There's a whole bunch of criteria, which I thought really limited the options. The signs and it wanted to be, the suggestion was 30,000 square feet. They can only be in one section. As we say, we like to be in two sections to take advantage of this mezzanine section, and we need more. 30,000 feet just doesn't really.
We actually specified that the main access to the self-storage facility will be located in the rear of the shopping center and not be a prominent store front facing any roadway.
But other shopping centers could do that too, like Target could do that. They could do the same thing in the back of their property, right? Not that they would, but.
Mill Creek, I'm not sure what the plans are there. There's a few current businesses there, I think, are being leaving, but things are happening in Rockvale, et cetera. So,
And Tanger, that would probably apply to.
or Tank, yes. So there, but, well, the text amendment you have is going to impact further than just the C3 zone where you are, because this would be a variation on the type of storage facilities that are currently in the zoning ordinance. That, where generally you have a fenced in area and you have a gate to get through, and you have a different, this will be a totally different type of access. Be I don't say a modification, but it'd be an expansion of the type of storage facilities that would be eligible in the township. So that's another.
It's really a different use. I mean, I think in most of them, existing zoning ordinances are mini warehouses and things like that. This is not, this is more of a retail facing version of storage. And we're just really stuck with, well, what do you do with that 50,000 square feet? There's nothing that really can be done.
Drove around the back of the building today the first time. I've been to the front of it, but in the PennDOT. It's the first I knew PennDOT. I saw people back there practice driving. They had 55-gallon plastic drums. People were taking turns parking, which I didn't even realize was there. But I've not had to teach anybody to drive for so there were a couple, 3 cars lined up going to those 6 parking between those 6 barrels, and it bumped them, and one did bump it, but the barrel moves and the car was damage free. But I don't know if that's an agreement with PennDOT to use that area for that activity.
For the testing, yes, yeah.
Okay, for the testing. So that's could be interesting depending on who's coming in to load, unload. If somebody's a new driver unlicensed or permitted, permitted, but not
I don't
think realize it yet.
between where they're doing that and where the current parking is, but we haven't heard of any issues currently.
He's saying we do the self-storage.
I'm just saying because the same type of vehicles would be coming in to access the point.
Well, and it's very narrow and part of the drive behind the building. It's ballooned out, but at either end, it's very narrow, and it almost probably should be a one-way traffic flow clearly marked and designated. Depending where we end up with this, but there are other challenges for the township beyond this site as we talked and the impact that it'll have. Yeah.
I have a question about the, I have not driven behind it, so I don't know, but looking at like the aerial, it looks like the access drive is pretty narrow back there, like you said, Daryl, but so are there trucks that go back there? Is that a loading area for the current tenants that are there?
Yeah, but you have Dollar Tree and Ollie's and Burlington coming to one side, and then you'd have Gabe's and Hobby Lobby going the other side. You don't really have a truck going all the way around the back.
But it's still like wouldn't the truck stop in the back to load?
Yeah, they all have loading docks.
So then can cars get it just feels,
I think we're gonna have to go through.
yeah.
There's enough space in the back, but several cars next to each other. And there's plenty of space with the drive. A school there, whatever.
I think you see all the parking spots there.
And so if there's a truck loading for Gabe's and another truck for Hobby Lobby comes by, they can get by that truck.
Not necessarily flush, but it's on an angle that allows vehicles to still get by.
Okay.
Would there be a limitation on the type of trucks or vehicles used for people to load their stuff in the back, or would it be they can bring?
You're not gonna need a tractor trailer, you'd still have, just like, yeah, if you're moving. your house.
I guess like open trailers, stuff like that, like 18-foot trailers or.
You would take a U-Haul, a U-Haul. There's people that are moving stuff out of the house, need to temporarily store it, or. I know.
Like you said, you can't carry it in the front door, you're not bringing it.
You're not bringing it.
And do you have the ability, I don't know where the property line is, but do you have the ability to extend the parking or extend the access drive so there's more space there?
The slope in the back.
A rear, even mine is saying, you know, egress, there's a parking spot, the parking against it.
There's a homeless camp behind as well.
Immediately behind Hobby Lobby. And it's just feet away of our
Well, the apartment,
apartments and rentals, and they set down a little, and then towards the end of behind what's going to be Gabe's or is Gabe's Hobby Lobby's coming. Behind there is the swimming pool for that area.
Yeah.
That kind of sits down, so,
The storage is up.
yeah, but the traffic is going to be coming through that area, so, and I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm more to the site plan, but, screening and gazing, especially if you're going to be 24/7. Now there probably isn't much nighttime traffic through there. Vehicles, lights, et cetera, that may be an issue for the residential area to the sides, there may be.
it's very low.
At night, so. And yeah, it's with the whole project,
But yeah, there's really no room to expand the drive, yeah.
I didn't know where the property line.
It's tight, yeah.
Wondering if we're left with what can we do with this space too? I mean, we've had to convert to what we have now to meet the modern shopping dynamic. I mean, malls are dying everywhere, especially a smaller mall like this. This was doomed from the start. I think we were one of the first malls to be demall. So we've done that successfully. Now we're 100% filled, but except for this rear space, which we don't know what to do with.
Understood you're looking at 100,000 square feet minimum. To
Max. Yeah.
100,000 maximum, excuse me, but then I think you said you need at least 50,000.
Yes.
Yeah, the minimum to be profitable, so you're looking at.
50 to 100,000.
50 to 100,000 for.
And just to comment on that, the reason, even take 50,000 being profitable, we have a minimum DLA just for the one section of 40,000 square feet. So when you guys, the original comments came back at 30,000, that didn't even cover the initial warehouse space that we had, or the space that we're saying is warehouse that was take back from Burlington, that was the center of the mall. So restricting it under 50 doesn't give us the ability to actually, without saying we're going to touch the mezzanine space, it's just the middle space.
So it doesn't make, we're asking, say 100,000 feet, you take about 25% of that. This is basically can't use multi-story hallways or entranceways or whatever.
Is my understanding is this is for individual use. But yeah, I'm looking at obviously Burlington. Who have seasonal items.
Yeah.
Now, businesses now don't keep the inventory they used to. You know, they used to have tremendous inventory, and if you wanted it and it wasn't on the shelf, they go in the back room and walk out with it. If it isn't on the shelf, quite often they don't have it now, unless the truck just came in and they didn't get it unloaded. As kind of the business model as I, from this side, see. So I don't know, but yeah, Hobby Lobby would have more seasonal items that could be good from one season to the next, or a year from now.
Right.
And Burlington maybe clothing items that they couldn't sell or sale, or even would the potential be there for them to rent and
Maybe
store.
oversized. I think they could afford the rings. We were in Hobby Lobby. They're adding a mezzanine in that space just to do exactly what you're talking about, store off season.
There's the Christmas trees that's itself, and instead of back to work.
Your typical unit size, 400 square feet to 200 square feet.
So,
Yeah.
10 by 10, 10 by 20.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys, your projection is basically 89,000 square foot to get 750 units is where we're at, right? That's where we're.
Yes.
Guys,
So maximum.
So just take 43,000 that I had sent out to be mapped, right? You're yielding 30,000 square feet.
Off of the.
That's what
You have to have hallways and common area.
that old to build thing, except.
Yeah. So we 43 serves in 30. So yeah, it's probably 55 to 60.
Right.
We just truly feel with this and with the added lighting in the back, the cameras, it's a much better situation than the back of a mall as it stands now.
And again, from a practical standpoint, other than going this direction, there's not much else you're gonna be able to do. There's zero frontage over the one that you know, is out of the question.
Other comments, questions? I know you've been talking with the township, and in general, there's concerns. As we've kind of said, beyond this site and the impact it may have on other potential parcels in the township, or this could occur if this text amendment is through and adopted, approved. And
We cover the issues of other properties or with the verbiage in the proposed amendment. I thought we were just here to present storage as an option for the property and talk about the size. Just sort of looking for direction.
Yeah, so yeah, in your latest proposal or submission, you said that you're unaware of any other properties where this would apply to. However, I found at least 5 that it currently would, and maybe more in the future if they were to come in and develop a shopping center, and then it would qualify. So, and as mentioned before, Rockville would qualify, Quality Center, Mill Creek Square, Tanger, Target, or just fly by, fall off the top of my head.
Right.
So, yeah, there's that. And tonight, this was an informal presentation, so we're just getting the boards, the PC just giving you comments.
Yeah, we.
Not so much direction, but just comments, what they think. This will be on the June 26th Board of Supervisor meeting. They'll do the same. So, yeah.
We appreciate the insight into what you're, and maybe we can go back and reconfigure it a little and have a much better when we come for the official presentation.
Follow Collins, I was a little surprised because you had that very thorough market study. Very in-depth and 60, 70 pages long. But then you say the others
Yeah, several.
that could potentially be impacted by this in the township. And that's critical information for the township. That's gonna have to be accumulated somewhere. It may be to your benefit to do that. Because you mentioned, well, this would have to be from the rear, this would have to be this, would have to be that, which may not happen any other place, but the other examples could be, and I'm not looking, if we get to the point of you preparing the draft text amendment, I don't want this to sound like I'm suggesting you need to be knowledgeable of that because it could be restrictive. And we're not going to give restrictions, honey. But it may help guide you together if the time comes to do that, to have a better understanding of the township and what is available in the town. And the township, through their other parcels or other sites that this could impact and, and we don't want storage all over the commercial area and the C3. One is one thing, but 6 is something else.
Don't forget that next door, the outdoor storage is pretty much all gone. And when they redevelop it, I think the rest as well. So I think we're looking for a better look. We're looking for less homeless people. We're looking for upgrade the center.
Yeah, and Howard Johnson was there and the parcel in the front and they put that storage in the back. I think there were 3 sets of buildings. Now there's a set that appears to still be in use at some level, I'm not sure. And the drive down through over to the hotel on the other side, but yeah, it's
There's we have room arms or sheets, and they would be able to pierce that veil yet.
but there are some challenges on both sides for you and for the township that I think we have to look in further. And all that. Thank you.
Besides the other centers, is there any other real concerns that we could look into?
For the other centers.
No. Said about tax amendment. Anything specific besides the driveways, or is there any other concerns that we should address for our center?
I have a concern about the size. I think 100,000 is way too big. That's my perspective.
And I'll follow up tomorrow with a memo or email that talks about all that. So, yeah.
Thanks for that. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Would like to speak with you guys about the homeless problem after this is.
Yes, okay, yeah.
I'm with that.
Yeah. Well, me,
You have to resource the county.
Right.
Next item is business. I have no new information other than lots of land. So new stuff came in, so I think we'll have a meeting next month. Business, I'll look and adjourn. Is there a motion for adjournment? Jason second, all those in favor?